is 50 years old and in good general health. She presents with symptoms of debilitating headaches that began on December 25th, 2013. These headaches went on to a point where she could no longer function through the pain. At the urging of her family, she went to a walk-in clinic to have her symptoms examined. And when the doctor examined her, he found that she had increased blood pressure, pressure behind her left eye, and also a whooshing sound when she moved her head from side to side quickly. This is a story about somebody I care about, somebody I love, somebody that I call mom. We did not know this, my family and I, but my mother had a malformation of the vascular system in her brain known as an AVM, an arteriovenous malformation. You can see right here. An AVM is a mass of veins and arteries that have died and turned into a mass. And 88% of AVMs never give a patient any issues. If you have an AVM, you're born with it. The 12% of AVMs that get inflamed can cause headaches, seizures, strokes, brain hemorrhaging, which is bleeding in your brain, and death. Everyone here has had a headache, right? But how many of you have ever thought that headache was because your brain was bleeding? Today I'm going to be speaking with you guys about the treatment of an AVM, the outlook for a patient with an AVM, and also how an unexpected illness can really take a toll on a family. An AVM is diagnosed by one of three tests: a cerebral angiogram, which is where they actually insert a camera into an artery in your groin and thread it up into your brain, an MRI, or a CT scan. My mother was sent for a CT scan, and when she had her scan, the doctor asked her to go straight to the emergency room. Anybody who's ever had medical imaging knows that when they ask you to wait around after, there's something wrong. He came in, the doctor, and told her that you have a mass in your brain and we have no idea what it is, so is there anybody you can call? We were very fortunate in the fact that he had a friend, a neurosurgeon by the name of Dr. Richard Chan, that worked at a Royal Columbian Hospital, and that night my mother was admitted as a patient of Dr. Chan's. For 6 days, she underwent different tests for them to try to figure out what was wrong. On the 7th day, they decided to perform an operation, and an operation for an AVM is done when you're one of the 12% that it gets inflamed. And the operation, they actually do an open craniotomy, which they do an incision in your skull, and they actually take a piece of your skull out, remove the damaged tissue, and stitch you back up again. That's my mom after her surgery. During the surgery, we waited outside the operating room. We were told that it was only going to take an hour and a half. We sat out there for 90 minutes, 120 minutes, and 240 minutes. When he came out, Dr. Chan, he said, the surgery went well, but we still have no idea what it is. We're going to have to wait for pathology to come back, which takes 8 to 12 days. That's when the waiting began for us. So that's when we started waiting, and we had to wait that 8 to 12 days. Cancer or no cancer, life or death. After surgery, the outlook for a patient with an AVM is very good, because once you remove that piece of damaged tissue, the risk of hemorrhaging and the seizures and strokes that I was talking about, the risk is no longer there. But it's just getting to it in time, that's the problem. After surgery, the patients, when you get brain surgery, you have to go in what they call a neurological ICU, and for 24 hours, you're monitored constantly. You're only allowed 2 visitors at a time when you're in this unit, and my father and I went in first, and we were greeted at the front of the ward by the head nurse. The head nurse came up to us and said, "Dr. Chan told you it was cancer, right?" We shook our head no, and she said, "Oh, well, you need to keep her blood pressure down. You need to keep her calm." How are we supposed to keep her calm when she pretty much just told me my mom was going to die? It's pretty impossible. Lucky for us, the hemorrhaging hadn't turned into brain damage, and it took everything I had to look at her and smile and tell her it was going to be okay. It was a real upheaval for us, and it was very difficult. People really underestimate the stress an unexpected illness can have on a family. That was the longest wait for pathology that I ever had to do. For 8 days, I was saying to myself, life or death, life or death, life or death. We had no idea what was going to happen. That day we were given the gift of life. There was no cancer in her brain, and it was concluded that it was the AVM. But even though we were very fortunate there was no cancer, the shock and fear and upset, as you can tell, really lingered for a long time. Throughout this entire experience, my family and I have learned a valuable lesson. Trust your instincts, trust your body, trust your gut. If you feel like there's something wrong, get it checked out. My mother lived with headaches for years, and that was her brain bleeding. We were very lucky. She was given a second chance, a chance to see her future grandchildren grow up, see her children graduate university, and even get her own university degree. Life or death, life or death, life or death. We were given life.